Hi, this is Don Priest, co-host of Love Conquers Alz. Welcome to Season 10, Episode 100. On behalf of Susie and I, we'd like to thank all of our amazing guests and for everyone who watches, listens, and supports Love Conquers Alz.
When the world has got you down and
Alzheimer's sucks. It's an equal opportunity disease that chips away at everything we hold dear. And to date, there's no cure. So until there is, we continue to fight with the most powerful tool in our arsenal, love. This is Love Conquers Alz, a real and really positive podcast that takes a deep dive into everything Alzheimer's, the good, the bad, and everything in between. And now, here are your hosts, Susie Singer-Carter and me, Don Priest.
Hello, everybody. I am Susie Singer-Carter.
And I'm Don Priest, and this is Love Conquers Alz. Hello, Susan.
Hi, Donald. How are you?
I'm swell. And yourself?
Good. I'm good.
You look
I'm
like,
excellent.
Susie, if you don't know Susie, she is known for many things, but one of the things she's known for is her wearing of hats. She is a chapeau master. She she has a different hat every day, and today she has a hat that is new. And why don't you explain to us what that hat is?
Well, I'm very proud of this hat because it says here. Don, read it for me because it's backwards.
It says ROAR, and that's ROAR, and that stands for Respect, Outreach, Advocacy, and Reform for Nursing Homes. And now that I've read that to you, why don't you explain why you're wearing that hat?
I will. I'm going to do that. So ROAR is really the name of our grassroots movement that goes along with our documentary No Country for Old People. And we've just decided that this is the name of our movement, and we feel like it's very proactive and energetic because we're roaring for change. We're roaring for reform in the nursing homes. And we have an interview later on about the documentary. So I had this hat made up yesterday with our new logo, and I'm very proud of it. And one of our media experts who we were just talking to thought it was great, so we feel good about it. Right, Don?
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, we've been bantying about names for months now. And this one just feels right because it really is saying what we have to do as a collective, and that is to use our voices and make a loud sound. So good on us.
So good on everybody. And if you're interested in being a part of ROAR and roaring along with us like tigers, then please go to our website for the documentary, which is nocountryforoldpeople.com. And there is a movement tab that you can go to and sign up to be a part of it because we need more help than we can imagine on this, especially now in our political climate. It's really, there's no better time than now to really coalesce and make change. And
Absolutely.
It's important because our voices as a public, as a collective, actually it's very powerful, and we can make change. And it's been, part of our history is making change that starts with just a few people. So come on and join us, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what else is new? Let's talk about something fun.
Well, you this last weekend, you have some little grandkids who got to do something for the first time, and
yes.
We went to Disneyland.
Yeah,
and that was great. It was actually a really great day.
It was a really great day. But can we talk about the price of Disneyland now? What on earth?
I'd rather not.
The happiest place on earth is the most expensive place on earth now.
Oh my gosh, it's
insane. It's $200 a ticket, folks.
To walk through the gates.
And that's not including to walk through the gates. A bottle of water is $9, and everything else is up more than that.
Parking
it's the
35.
Most expensive place. Yeah. It's the most expensive place on earth, and yet it's crowded to the gills, which says something about, I don't know, what does it say? I have no idea.
It says
all I know is that
people don't care about how much it
people don't
costs.
care. People like Disneyland.
Despite that, it was a great time, and to see your little grandbabies, just their eyes are constantly lighting up everywhere they look and everything. And it was
2
pretty
years
great.
old and 5 years old, and they were in. Yeah, it's really fun to go. So that's the way to do
Indeed.
it. And then go home and take a lot of Advil, because I was carrying a 2-year-old for 12 hours, and I didn't realize. I mean, I work out every day, but I was like, oh my God, I actually hurt. This hurts. So
Susie was toting around 28 pounds with one arm the whole time, just like
the whole
28
time.
pounds just right there. And it doesn't, and it moves. It's not like it's just still. But I don't
but
hear
anyway,
you complaining.
no, I keep forgetting that I'm not 17 anymore. I don't understand. I keep thinking I can do whatever I used to do, but I pretty much am doing okay. But you know what, Donald?
Yes, I do.
We have such a we have a great guest today, and you know why?
We do.
Because, well, I really like this person because so many people in our community told me, you really need to speak to Marty, this man that you're going to introduce properly, because you two are very similar. You're very kismet, whatever it is, whatever that word I'm trying to think of is, but that we have very similar stories with different players. That's all, and that we approached our journey so similarly. And indeed we did. And so it's interesting though to hear it from a male perspective. So let's just get to the interview, and Dawn, do a beautiful introduction.
Why, I think I'll do that. Former Wisconsin Governor Martin J. Schreiber is an award-winning crusader for Alzheimer's caregivers and persons with dementia. Reaching audiences nationwide at live events and via media, he uses humor and compassion to share lessons from his ongoing decade-plus journey as a caregiver for the love of his life, his wife, Elaine. The author of My Two Elaines, Learning, Coping, and Surviving as an Alzheimer's Caregiver, he details his experiences in caring for his beloved wife. It is a love story that began in the 50s as high school sweethearts and takes us through the cruel twists of Alzheimer's while still finding moments of joy through activities such as music and simply holding hands. Since her passing in 2022, Marty continues to recognize and support Alzheimer's caregivers, an unpaid workforce that now exceeds 16 million people nationwide. His goal for caregivers, whom he calls heroes, is that they learn, cope, survive, and even thrive during their difficult journey. We are honored to have him here with us today, so let's not take another moment and say hello to Marty Schreiber. Hello, Marty.
Well, hi, Don. Hi, Susie. And thank you for the kind introduction, and a salute to two of you for what you are doing to better bring attention to and focus on this whole business of caregiving and Roar. Oh my goodness, when I heard what you were talking about with Roar, sign me up. I'll go to your website, but sign me up. I'll tell you, with that profit motive that there is for senior care, it's very difficult to get the degree of training, the quality of workers, the quality of food, the quality of the programming and so forth that they're talking about. And what happens is, I don't get into this too heavily, but periodically people send me manuscripts of their experiences as a caregiver. Oh my gosh, what people have gone through in assisted living memory care, even in hospice, even in in homes which claim to be the absolute best and so forth, there still is such a great challenge there to get the kind of quality staff that allows a caregiver or a loved one to walk away in the evening from their loved one. So very difficult to walk away with the comfort of knowing that everything is going to be fine. And what you're really doing is not only helping the person who is in the bed in the nursing home, but what you are doing is giving comfort, aiding a caregiver, a loved one who has to leave their special person, has to leave them not knowing if they're going to be getting the kind of quality attention, even fair amount of attention that should be given. So thank you for that, and I salute you. Thank you, thank you.
I thank you for saying that, and you're so right, because everything you said reflected what happened with my mom and I 2 years ago, and that's why we're doing the documentary. That's why we're creating the movement, because even in a 5-star facility here in Los Angeles, and even with a staunch advocate like me, caring for someone who I love dearly, I could not get the kind of care that my mom deserved. And so I realized, as it was going on, and I did my homework and realized that it's not my mom's story, it's everybody's story. And we really need to change it. It's just too profit-driven, like you said, and it's only going to get worse.
Well, as the population expands, that there are really no standards.
No.
Assisted living memory care, what is that? What does that offer? What can you be assured of getting, and so forth? Well, there is no assurance of getting anything, and so by the grace of God, hopefully people can find a place at this moment in time that's going to give them that comfort of knowing their loved one is well taken care of. Hopefully, if not, they've got to fight like
Yeah.
And those places do exist, but they are the minority. I mean, because and it's great when you see a facility that does it right, because you know that it's a possibility. It's not impossible, and it becomes the model for what can be. But until the system changes, and until and you as a former governor, you are the politics and how politics plays into this, especially with the nursing home lobby, when we're fighting against that. And, so you've seen it, I'm sure, from both ends.
Well, we're fighting money. We're fighting the profit movement. And, you have our elderly citizens and you put them into assisted living memory care, into a nursing home. And the goal should be quality care. That's not the goal. The goal is to make money for the investors.
Yes.
And wait a minute, that's all topsy-turvy, but so it's going to be a constant. So I urge everyone to sign up for ROAR, and let's do the roaring, and let's make sure that we are able to. Now, individuals too can also look in their home state, because there are many times state regulations that can come into play that will help some of this. But so my hat's off to the two of you for what you're doing.
Well,
and
thank you so much.
Every caregiver in the world owes you a debt of gratitude, and every person who's in a home owes you a debt of gratitude. My gosh. So
bless your heart. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, let's talk about your journey and how you got here, because, and people ask me this all the time, like, you went through such a long journey with your mom. Why are you retelling the story? Why are you doing, because many people don't. Many people finish the chapter and move on, and because even if it's a lovely journey, it's draining at best. It's heartbreaking at best. It's bittersweet, but you decided to share your story. So why don't we talk about how that happened, and your a little bit of your journey of how you got to My Two Elaines, because I love the title so much, because there's definitely my two mommies. I had my two mommies too. I get it. It makes so much sense.
Well, with My Two Elaines, of course, the wonderful girl I met when I was a teenager in high school, and was my wife and my partner, my companion, my friend, everything you could ever ask. Then there was a second Elaine, and that was the one who at the age of in her mid-60s began to lose her memory. And so in that journey, which was like almost 18 years, in that journey I found out a few things that really made a difference. One of them is if Alzheimer's is bad, ignorance of the disease is worse. And I realized that when the doctor when making the diagnosis, he said there's 4 things that we should be doing. Numenda and Aricept, which are drugs which I took, and they may delay, I don't know, but we did it. And then socialization, to make sure we do that, and then a glass of red wine every evening, and walking, which is the best exercise for the brain. That is all the doctor told me. And so when I say there's one thing worse than Alzheimer's, it's ignorance of the disease, I want the medical profession to understand that when there is this diagnosis, there are 2 patients. So depending upon which studies you look at, 30 to 40% of caregivers die before their loved one because of stress-related illness. They say that that caregivers have a 60% higher death rate than non-caregivers. So within that framework, then, there are 2 patients. And now, so now we are our 2 patients. How do we help the caregiver? Well, we want to give them information. And one of the things that I had a difficult time doing, but once I understood it, made all the difference in the world, and that was joining Elaine where she was at. As long as I said, Elaine, it didn't happen on a Thursday, it happened on a Friday. Elaine, it wasn't the Jones, as long as I tried to keep her in my world, our experience and our joint frustration and the discouragement and the anxiety was just so heightened. And once I began to understand that by joining her world, her life can be better, and also so my life can be better too. And wow, what a difference that sort of made. And so I'm beginning to realize this. And then I have a very good friend whose wife had early onset, and he would argue with her about whether she should have on another sweater. Wait a minute. We need to join their world. Just simple. Simple as that. And so that's what got me into it. First of all, Susie, you and I know what it's like to go through and see our dear loved one lose their memory, and see how they lose then every one of their health faculties, and so how it goes and how painful that is. And then to know that, well, there are things that we can do in looking for moments of joy. And so when I say moments of joy for a moment, I said the doctor said that, a glass of red wine every evening and also going for a walk. Well, Elaine got 4 weeks ahead with the glass of red wine every evening, and we got 3 weeks behind in the walking. But the point is, when we would go for a walk, because it's my world, she'd say, "Oh, look at that beautiful flower. Come on, Elaine, I had a half an hour. That was my time frame for a walk. So, okay, we don't have time to look. Oh, look at the bird. No, we don't, We're caregivers if we can take a time and a moment to understand that there can be moments of joy. Then there's one other point, and that is that as of this moment, there's not really a realizable kind of solution to this Alzheimer's, not practical. That's the same way it was 20 years ago when Elaine was first diagnosed. And so we sort of learned we can't fight this disease head on. So that's very discouraging. That's horrible. But what we can do is we can determine and fix a very realizable goal which can give us an upbeat in our heart. And that is to help our loved one live their best possible life. That is a realizable goal. And that's something we can do. And we can lay down our head in the evening and say, oh my gosh, the pain is horrible. I miss my wife. But what we were able to do is help her live a good day, a good life possible. So Susie, sort of a long answer, but oh gosh, when I think about you going through as you did with your mom and going back the moments that I did, so challenging, so very difficult, and then plus you had to fight the nursing homes and so forth, the kind of care you wanted your mom to have. Anyway, so again,
I agree with you. No, I agree with you. Everything you say resonates so deeply with me. It's the thing that really brings me to this show. It's the thing that motivated me to do a short film about my mom, which before the documentary with Valerie Harper called My Mom and the Girl. Valerie plays my mom. It was really the moment that I, my journey, learning to lean into my mom instead of trying to, wrestle with this disease that I thought I was going to be able to cure because no one else was smart enough, but I'm going to find the cure. And then I realized that was just, very lofty of me and impossible, not to mention. I just decided I'm going to lean way into my mom and like you, not argue, and just enjoy and find those moments. She was a singer. We sang. I made her laugh. She had a great sense of humor. And if I could do if I could make her smile and laugh and get hugs and kisses, I was a happy girl, happy camper.
When you say that, I'm reminded I used to, as much as possible, have lunch with Elaine in the cafeteria in assisted living memory care. So one day we're having lunch and she begins to cry. And I said, Elaine, why are you crying? Well, she looked at me, she said, I'm beginning to love you more than my husband. Well, I didn't ask her what's wrong with her turkey husband. I didn't do that. But what I did do was understand, and I try and point this out to caregivers, what I understood then, it was not necessary for her to know my name in order for our hearts to touch. Like you said, singing songs and so forth. So I began to understand that she need not know my name, but our hearts can touch by holding hands, by giving a hug, by singing a song, by just listening to music, by being together, by giving a smile. And those kinds of things, as I learned along the way, that sort of gave me some relief, like a salve, a soothing salve. That's what I want to share with other people so they can understand that there are these yes, it's a tough disease, but there are these moments of joy that we can take heart from.
And it's really being in the moment. It's, because you have to, I know some people get into what, they call a loop, where literally they'll say the same exact thing over and over and over every 10 seconds. With Susie's mom, I was very close with her mom. I was very lucky because my loop with her is she would turn to me and just say, I love you. And she would say that like literally over and over again every 10 seconds. And, after a while, no matter what the loop is, like for us, it's like, oh my God, again. And you have to realize that every time is the first time for them. And if you can just take that and say, that's their moment, let me just enjoy it. Let me just be with there in that moment. That will help you as a caregiver. Instead of getting frustrated over hearing the same thing over and over, just be in the moment every time because for them it is the first time.
Yeah.
Right. And there's also technique with dealing with somebody with Alzheimer's, which at the time when she was looping, what Dawn's talking about, I didn't have those techniques, but now I know that if I was to say, I know, isn't Dawn fantastic, Mom? He's the best friend. He's the son you should have had. And then go, hey, Mom, do you want a banana? I'm going to redirect her and she's going to forget about the loop. But at the time, I didn't know how. I was just like, I was dog paddling, learning as I went, as I'm sure you were too.
Yeah.
Marty.
Well,
yeah.
I can remember once Elaine asking me, how are my parents? And I said, well, they're both dead. She said, no, they're not. Elaine, when I saw her hurt, I determined I was not going to put her through that again. So then the next time that she asked me, how are my parents? Oh, I said, your mom's doing great. I said, your dad likes his sports. And I said, they're really very, very, they're doing well. Oh, she said, that makes me feel so happy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what I call therapeutic fibbing. Therapeutic fibbing. And I want you to know there are two things to therapeutic fibbing. Number one, I tried it the first year of marriage, and it doesn't work so good the first year of marriage.
No.
The second point, and I point this out to caregivers, and I say this, you may not believe this. I'm very honest with the caregivers, but I said, you may not believe this, but I said, if you go back to the Old Testament, when Moses was on top of the mountain bringing down the 10 Commandments, I was there, and I helped him. And he asked for it. I said, Mo, don't call him Mo. He likes Moses. But anyway, so I said, Moses, he just helped me carry these things down. So I carried him. We all went down. We're perspiring. It's in the desert and so forth. People are looking at the front. Of course, there's do's and don'ts and so forth, the 10 Commandments. I looked, and it was written in Arabic language. But I looked on the other side of those tablets, and written in good American English, therapeutic fibbing is good. Therapeutic fibbing is advisable. Therapeutic fibbing could make a difference in how a person is able to learn, cope, and survive. Can you imagine? That's right. But I say that
I had no idea.
Yeah, not on
I
business.
hadn't.
Because but that's really
knew?
pretty important. Pretty
That's
important.
Amazing.
I
And
mean,
you look
yeah.
you look amazing for your age too. I can't believe it. You back because look at where's Mo now? Where is
Yeah.
he?
Yeah.
Or, I mean Moses.
Well, I got a great Caregiver. So
So okay, so I'm looking at my notes about you, and I'm saying it took you more than a decade to come to these epiphanies that you had, which is 10 years of I'm not judging it because it took me a long time as well, but I want to hear like what was that moment, because I know for me I was fighting tooth and nail to keep Mom in the present where I thought she should be. But 10 years is a long time for you to struggle through that, right?
well, there's
What was the switch? What was the pivot?
Yeah, well, I wish it would have happened like a bolt out of the blue, but it happened a little bit at a time. I did go
Okay.
to counseling, and I would encourage people to understand that they're going through a lot of emotions, and counseling could be a very helpful situation for the process. But it just sort of came to me, and I began to understand with the counselor telling me about redirection, for example, and Elaine wants a glass of wine at 9:30 in the morning, and no, you can't have a glass of wine at night. It's not the answer. Do you want red wine or white wine? You want to drink with your
Right.
friends, and by the way, should we have a cup of coffee while we're trying to figure out what kind of wine we should have? And so that pivot, and I'll tell you what makes the pivot so hard. You do not want to leave this person who once was, okay? And your intellect can tell you very clearly, join the world of this person who now is. Emotionally, that's very hard. And so it makes all that more difficult for the caregiver. And again, that's why I wrote the book. I wanted to try and help the caregiver better understand that by letting go, it can be sort of an entrance into a new type of positive life for both the caregiver and the person who is ill. And gosh, and that's where I get, if Alzheimer's is bad, ignorance of the disease is worse, for a caregiver to understand from the beginning the importance of
Yes.
joining the world of the person who now is. What a difference that would make.
Yeah, it can save you so much stress and angst. I think what's really unique about your story and telling your story, because I mean we've interviewed so many people and very few male caregivers, and also from a marriage, that kind of relationship, as opposed to a parent and child relationship, which is so different. Of course, my loss is, oh, where's my mommy that's going to love me, and no one loves you like your mom, and and we particularly had a great relationship, so she was very unique and one of a kind, and I just missed her 1,000 times over. But I always wonder what it's like as a spouse, and you've got that that dynamic that you once had this kind of relationship, and that must be so difficult day in and day out, and of this change in your relationship, because now you're really the parent as opposed to the husband.
Yes, a couple of things as the spouse, particularly as a male caregiver. One of the things I want to try and have male caregivers understand, and that is that it is a sign of courage and not giving up to ask for help. And so as a male caregiver, we men, we think we don't have to ask for directions any place. We know we can do it all of ourselves. And we have to get to a point of understanding that if we're surrounded by an enemy and there's no hope of survival, are we just going to sit there, or are we going to go for help? And so going for help means we're not giving up. It also is a sign of courage. And so as a male caregiver, it's different because of our arrogance. And just a quick story. So I go to counseling and I say to the counselor, I just cannot see putting Elaine into assisted living memory care. I can't see putting her into a nursing home. And she says, you're not putting Elaine anyplace. Well, I said, what do you mean? Well, what you are doing is you're giving her an opportunity to be who she is now. And Marty Schreiber's 24/7 nursing home care take? Absolutely not. And so the point of the matter is, I selfishly was in this battle with Alzheimer's. I was going to take my wife. Marty Schreiber, I was not thinking about what is in the best interest of Elaine because I was arrogant and selfish and probably lacking of a hero status. A hero status would have said, hey, we've got to do something better. We've got to make an improvement. I'm going to do this. But no, it was selfishness and arrogance. And finally, when I got that into my head that this is not my battle, again, going back, we can't beat this disease, but we can help our loved one live their best life possible. And that made a big difference for me.
We'll be right back.
I'm Peter, owner of Peter Fan Photography, and I want to talk to you about something important, preserving memories. Time moves quickly, and before we know it, those we love may no longer be with us. For the last few years, I've taken complimentary professional headshots of seniors in a local retirement home, helping families capture the essence and personality of their loved ones through beautiful photos. I've seen firsthand how meaningful these images can be. When I photographed my own parents, I realized how powerful it is to have these lasting memories, photos that capture smiles, stories, and the unique spirit of the people we care about most. If your parents or loved ones are still with you, don't wait. These images can bring comfort and joy for years to come, whether it's for remembering silly moments or honoring family history. My message is simple. Get photos of your loved ones while you can. Hire a local photographer, use your camera, cell phone, whatever it takes. Just do it now. For more information, visit peterisfanphotography.com.
As far as being a spouse, like you're losing two aspects of a relationship. Like, you have the interpersonal relationship of a spouse, and then you have this person that's just someone that you dearly love. So now there's two holes in your heart, right? And so that's a whole nother aspect that I didn't have to. I've been through a divorce, so it's the same as divorcing. Like I didn't have my husband anymore. So you didn't have your wife, and you didn't have your best friend. So that's two things that you lost because those fulfill different needs and different aspects of your soul. So I salute you for staying there and being such a pillar for her. And listen, it's not, I get that it's selfish. I was selfish too. I mean, I wanted my mom to stay mom. But I have to say that every once in a while, and it's in my film about her, is that when the proverbial poop hit the fan, sometimes mom would come out and out of nowhere, and mom would be there, the mom that I knew, who would say, I told you, go look in the mirror, you're fantastic, thank God for who you are, and that's it. And my mom became mommy for the second. And so, I thought, okay, well, there's the gifts if we are patient and if we're there and if we listen and we give them space. Sometimes they surprise you.
I sort of had the same experience you did, but in a different way. I'm about ready to go to print with the book, telling my story, Marty Schreiber's story. Well, I found a series of notes and journals that Elaine had been keeping since her date of diagnosis. And I went through those notes and journals. And I want you to know we had prayed together and we had cried together, but never did I get an insight into the degree of courage it takes to be diagnosed with this illness and then go forward. But also, Susie, the insight that those notes gave me, by the way, each chapter of the book begins with one of Elaine's notes to help the caregiver or the reader understand what is going on in the mind of a person who is in the journey of Alzheimer's. And so what I found out in those notes is how much she loved me. And I found out she told not only how much loved me, but how much she depended upon me for going forward. And yes, it was not a verbal kind of statement, but it was that in writing, which gave me a comforting understanding that this woman who is disappearing has always given me that kind of love. And even though she was disappearing, that love expression was still there. And
Still there.
and and I sit here and you and I are talking. I want caregivers to understand what we are talking about is a lot of pain and a lot of hardship, but please take heart. You've got to take heart in the fact that there's hope. You've got to take grip a hold of the fact that we can work to help our loved one's life be made better. And also we can understand that in this process, you're probably going to meet what I call canes. And so I have spinal stenosis and I have to walk with a cane many times. What does a cane do? Well, it gives me balance. It gives me stability. It gives me confidence. It helps me move forward. And what could happen in the life of a caregiver on this journey, that you will find canes. You will find wonderful, beautiful people who are going to be so helpful at a moment in time. And that's another thing we've got to do as it relates to ROAR. I say that Alzheimer's is not a chicken casserole disease. And so hypothetically speaking, I break a leg, you bring me chicken casserole. I have open heart surgery, I can't get around, chicken casserole. My wife has dementia. People don't understand this disease. They don't know what to do, and they stay away.
No,
And
it's
now
scary to them.
the caregiver is not only feeling abandoned, isolated by friends of maybe 25, 30 years. And so we've got to help people understand that Alzheimer's is a chicken casserole disease from the standpoint of being attentive and caring to both the person on the journey and also the caregiver. And so it's a challenge because it's a stigma to many people. They don't know how to handle it. And that's not to say I'm not to blame. I guess writing the book and so forth was sort of a way of trying to make retribution for the things I could have done better. Writing the book, trying to make sure I could help other people not go through the same kind of challenges that I went through, sometimes needlessly.
And that's so important because the caregiver, as you touched on before, the caregiver is the other not patient, but the other person that is involved, and I think that a lot of times the caregiver, did you ever feel moments of guilt when you said, I need to do something for myself. I need a break. I need, because you feel guilty. It's like, how can I not be there 24/7, 7 days a week? If I take an hour from myself, I'm not doing my job. And that's actually completely the opposite of what it should be.
Counterintuitive,
You need to take care of yourself or you can't be that great caregiver. Did that happen to you?
Don, you're right on target. It is that guilt. And because the disease is progressive, no matter what I did today, I think I've got it mastered, and I wake up tomorrow and it's a whole new challenge. Now, what am I doing wrong? Here's what happens. So I spend more time. And what happens is maybe I don't now get the exercise I should be getting, and I don't get the socialization that I should be getting, and I may not be eating right, and I may not be sleeping right. And all of a sudden, these chemicals are building up in my body, and I become one angry person. I become irrationally irritable. My health could become at stake, and that's why we talked about 30 to 40% of these caregivers dying before their loved ones. And so caregivers, please understand that having all of this love for your loved one and not take care of yourself, that's just absolutely counterproductive to everything that you feel and want to be and experience. It's absolutely against all of that. And so you've got to take care of yourself. And here's another point, Don. So I was not only becoming irrationally irritable, but also I was getting to the point of 6 o'clock in the evening, and one beef eater's martini helped pretty good because I knew I had made the day. Well, then maybe 6 o'clock would be another. I think I deserve another one because not only, and so all of a sudden I got involved in what I call the caregiver's poison, and that's alcohol. And so what I finally began to understand, my children had a confrontation. What do they call it? Where they sit you down and talk to you.
Intervention. An intervention.
They had an intervention with me, and they basically said, "Dad, if you don't do something, you're going to be dead before Mom. We don't want to lose both parents." And so what I began then to understand is, yes, I love my wife so dearly, but by the same token, I have children and I have grandchildren, and maybe I have friends that can be that I can be of help to. I can continue to be a meaningful person in the world. And yes, this is all consuming, but by the same token, there are other things that I can be doing in life to carry on what Elaine tried to,
and fulfill your own life. You were self-medicating, and for me, I'm a social drinker, so that wasn't my thing. But I remember like trying, being an A-type personality. My mom was living with me for a year after my divorce and after my stepdad died, and I didn't want her to be alone in a facility. And the cortisol, you're talking about all this, chemicals. I had so much cortisol, and I wasn't sleeping at all because I'd be working, I'm a filmmaker. So I'm working all through the night, and I'm thinking I can handle this. And, I've never gained weight in my life. And I'm like suddenly 20 pounds heavier than I've ever been because I'm not eating. It's this that I'm not sleeping. I'm not taking care of myself. And the cortisol is raging, right? And the doctor told me, she was like, your cortisol's off the charts. You have to sleep, girl. You have to sleep. And you really have to take care of yourself too. And to reaffirm, Susie, what you're saying about cortisol, one of the results of too much cortisol, dementia. Oh, great. Great.
Wow.
And I think it's that we have to take.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think we have to take the stance that it's not just okay to take care of yourself. It's mandatory.
Yes.
Because you're only hurting the person you're caregiving for more by not taking care of yourself. And doing it without guilt and doing it with, with just everything I do for myself, I'm doing for them too. Yeah. And it's also, at least for me, and I know everyone's situation is different, and some people have a contentious relationship with the person they're caring for. They had it, and maybe it's better now. But, and this is also seen in my short film, but it was very profound to me that my mom was having in the middle of the night, was having an out-of-body experience. She wanted to go get out of there. She thought I stole her baby, da-da-da-da-da. And I'm following her down the stairs, and it's very, very cinematic in real life. And the moonlight's coming in through the window, and suddenly I say, "Mommy, stop running." And she turns around and goes, "Oh my God, you're my baby. You're my baby." And she looked at me and she said, "You got to put me in a home. You got to live your life." And I said, "Oh, you're going. Don't trust me." And I said, "Not yet." We made a joke, right? And so, but so deep, her feeling was like, and I know that the mom without Alzheimer's would have said, "Susie, what are you doing? I'm okay. You have to have a life." And I tried to keep that in the back of my mind all the time so that I didn't feel guilty. Because I don't think most people who are healthy emotionally would want that for you as their caregiver. Don't you agree? I'm sure Elaine did not want you to be unhappy and suffering. That's the last thing she would want. So,
No.
And I mean, so it's totally counterintuitive to what that person would want in your relationship.
She said in one of her notes, "Marty, I need to take care of yourself as well as for me," and so she realized that I needed to go forward. But I think even the caregiver would understand that their own self-interest, I mean, not the caregiver, but the person on the Alzheimer's journey would understand out of their own self-interest, the caregiver has to be healthy and take that time off, that respite. respite time and so forth. I do believe that.
I do
and,
too.
Yeah.
And I know, first of all, thank you for reminding me of the way that you started each chapter. This book is so good. Everyone ought to read it, because it really is written in such a personal, and you're very transparent about the mistakes that you felt you made. I'm not saying that I think you did a wonderful job, mistakes and all, because I think we all make mistakes, but you're very open about it, and you're very, so you were very contemplative about how this journey was, and I think that that's important without being exploitive, and I really respect that about the way that you told the story, and I do think that because you are a male of the male gender, that it's so important, though, because a lot of male caregivers don't have people to talk to or commiserate or and they're not supported, and I just think that for that alone, your story is just massively impactful and important, and needs to be out there. And I'm really happy to, amplify it along with you, because I just think that, I know Don is a very tender-hearted person. He's been my best friend forever, and people often think that men are just, they could just take it, and they just, no, that's not true. They men are very sensitive and also need the support, and also have different ways of viewing. So what you're doing is such a great service for other men who are going through similar things. So
thank you very much.
You're
for
welcome.
that. There's one other
You're welcome.
aspect of this that we men don't understand, and I think all caregivers, men or women, and that is that as we see our loved ones sort of disappear a little bit every day. I had a friend who retired, and he at dinner one night, and he died of a massive heart attack, snap of a finger, gone. And it was tragic, so quick. There was a funeral, and people came by to express their condolences, and there was closure. As tough, as sudden as this was, there was closure. A caregiver never gets closure. A caregiver sees their loved one maybe die just a little bit every day, and because of not getting closure, we also go through either acknowledged or unacknowledged grieving. And so that is just something that is added on to this pile of emotions that are coming by. And I wanted to be very transparent in my book. I wanted people to know that it's okay to cry. I wanted people to know that to share your heart with somebody because of the great pain, that's okay. In fact, we're human beings, and we have the ability to share and to love and even to hope together. And I tried to do, and that's what my life is. And I will get involved with your roar if you want me. But I've been giving many talks around the countryside to caregivers, trying to help them to better learn, cope, and survive, to realize if there's one thing worse than Alzheimer's, it's ignorance of the disease, and
Absolutely.
to join the world with a person who now is, and so forth, and just trying to make that whole journey just a little bit easier.
If you don't, I agree with you 100%, and not only the caregivers, but the whole world needs a better education on this kind of disease, since it is so prevalent, and too large of a majority of even in our healthcare system do not understand the disease, and there's a stigma that it occurs in our healthcare system, and that's why that's part of our reform, is to educate our providers to understand the difference between someone with dementia, without dementia, because it is massively different. It is not a one size fits all. And if you don't understand the disease, you're going to treat it, incorrectly. And that's so important. So important. Can I touch on one other thing with you, and you can tell me no if you don't want to. We both lost our significant loved well, not my significant other, but our loved ones in 2022, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And, everyone, and I know there's a lot to talk about anticipatory grief. You just touched on it a little bit. And, for me, my experience with watching my mom crossing her over the bridge, I thought it was going to be something that I wasn't going to be able to accept and take, as a little girl, watching their mom leave this earth. My mom and I used to joke, we're not leaving, that's for other people. We don't die. We'd make a joke about it. And I told my mom the night before she died, you're teaching me how to live, and now you're teaching me how to die. She did the best. She was a great mom. And I cried when she first died, but then I still haven't grieved the way I thought I would. And I'm just sharing that openly because I don't know if I'm afraid to. I don't know if I grieved for 16 years because she had Alzheimer's for 16 years. And maybe, I did it all in that time. But I'm wondering how that was for you when Elaine finally left the earth. How did you deal with that?
Well, I think you sort of hit it as far as I look back. I think I grieved a little bit every day. And by the time she passed away, maybe I was almost grieved out, although there were tears and there was, great sadness. But another factor that came into play along with that, and that is I could not have asked her to go on for another moment based on her physical incapabilities. He was just, I could not ask her at all. And so because I knew that maybe the best thing for her was to pass, and because I had that, that anticipatory or unacknowledged grieving over that period of time, but it probably like you, though, I still haven't gotten over it. She's still so forthright in my memories and in my thoughts, and I'm grateful that I have this period of time to spend more time with the kids and the grandkids as she would have wanted, as she would have nurtured them. And so, that whole business of grieving, they say that grieving is a tribute to the one who passed. And so I think that's what you and I did. We gave that tribute to our loved one, and somehow, to know here, your mom and my wife would not want us to continue to sit at the graveside and cry. I think what they would say is, look, I want you to get out and make sure that we can make things better in nursing homes, and then make sure that people can feel comfortable when they leave their loved one at nights, that they're getting good care. I think that's what they would have liked to have said and would have said and probably did say. And you're making them very proud, and you're in their honor.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. Back at you. Yeah, I agree.
So going, just backtracking just a little bit, when you talk about ignorance and the lack of education that we have, I mean, realistically, if you don't know anyone in your life who has Alzheimer's, you're not going to sit there and go on and study about it before it's even part of your life. So most people, the time they start learning about it is when it happens. When somebody in their life, it happens, or it happens to them, whatever. So when that happens, what's where do we get that education? What are the steps you would recommend taking to get that knowledge and to, so you're not in the dark and it doesn't take you 10 years to figure it all out?
I would try and get a hold of a book, something like my book. In other words, something that's going to give a realistic, but not hopefully a dire statistic. It's something that just sort of presents some of an understanding of what the process is going to be like as your loved one is on this Alzheimer's journey. I think that would be one of the first things, and it would be my hope that when there would be a diagnosis like that, that the doctor would, in fact, have people get in touch with maybe the Alzheimer's Association or with some other association who is equipped to give them that basic information. I think that becomes so important because, you don't know how to handle it, you don't know what to do, and to get some insight into what that process is going to be like, I think makes all the difference in the world. That's really the basic beginning. Then I think from there to try and, like tossing a pebble in a pond, to try and make those loved ones around you sort of understand better and clearer what is happening. You don't want to jump out to the great uncle who never you see again. You talk with children and siblings and so forth to help give them a better understanding. And I think within that framework, there'll be a molding of, hopefully by the grace of God, a molding of comfort that's going to help you, sort of through this by understanding the disease and not getting in battle with fighting it.
Yeah. I think we also have to know at this point in time that, like you said, that many of the inner circle do fade away because people don't understand it, or they are fearful of it, or they just don't have the patience for it. Whatever the case may be, there's still that stigma. And you had mentioned it. It happened with my mom, even with family members, our close circle. People just fell off the face of the earth and dismissed it as, well, she doesn't remember, so what's the point? And it's hard to educate everybody. It's hard to educate them while you're still educating yourself. So would you say, I say this, I think you have to just, instead of getting angry at them and resenting your support or lack of support system, you maybe just look at them with understanding and understand that some people just aren't as strong as you. And they can't deal with it. They can't handle it. And so there's nothing we can do about that. We can't change them.
Yeah, Susie, that's such a great point. Everybody handles grief their own way, and maybe it's grief, or maybe it's just that not being knowledgeable about what's going on or being fearful. And there is so much energy that is required of a caregiver to keep things on path, that when I began to get angry and upset with the people who should have been doing something more and could have been doing something more, why not are they doing something more, that it began to sap my energy. And I sort of had to let go of that. And I would encourage other caregivers to understand that everybody handles the thing a different way. And yes, we can feel chagrined and we can feel sad, but we've got to just step back and understand what it is, and then focus on how we can make it better. And making it not going to make it better by ruminating in our own mind about it, because it's just too, and there's not enough time in the day for that. There's too many
not enough time. Yeah, 100%. You have to pick your battles. And when you're a caregiver, you have too many battles to choose from. So that should be the last priority that you have, if it's all a priority, and that comes down to a little bit of the reform we're trying to do, is to really educate the public, because the longer you live, the chances are of developing some form of dementia are very high. And so why aren't we taught more about that throughout our lives? And it's very important that we understand how it manifests, what it means, how, and how to deal with it, so that we aren't abandoning our loved ones and our loved ones' caregivers. It seems we're losing the sense of community.
And maybe thus as it was, and maybe thus as it shall always be, unless we do something about it.
Yes.
Unless which we can.
Yeah.
Yes.
And sometimes
Agreed.
isn't it possible this, somebody who doesn't want to be, it's like you're not asking them to come over and help you, sit and do that, but you can maybe ask somebody, hey, you know what? I need just, instead of you having to go out and get something, can you possibly pick, hey, while you're out, can you pick this up for me? Just little tiny things that make your life a little bit easier, and they don't have to get fully involved, but they can at least be part of your support system. And is that something you found you were able to do?
The basic question is, how can you best help a caregiver? And how can a caregiver best help themselves as it relates to friends? First of all, if you want to help a caregiver, my advice is, one, acknowledge that you understand what they're going through. And I don't know of any more kind thing you can do for a caregiver than to just relate and acknowledge the challenge. After that, then, you don't say, call me if I can help you, because caregivers don't do that. Then what you could say is, can I cut the grass, or can I take the dog for a walk, or can I go to the store for you, or can I come and sit with Mary or whoever it is for a bit of time with Elaine, and while you go out and so forth. But specific acts. And then also for caregivers to understand, and I want to drive this home again, to ask for help means you're not giving up. And so to ask for help from somebody means that you're in the battle. You're in the battle to fight it. And because of you being in the battle, not giving up, you are going to be asking friends to help and to do special kinds of things. And that in turn leads to what we talked about before, and that is now you're beginning to develop canes that can help you through this, to give you that balance and to give you the courage to move forward and so forth. And so, I sometimes sit and think, as a caregiver, they didn't do this, they didn't do that, but I had a responsibility too. And that responsibility was to develop canes to help me. My responsibility was to have people, get better understanding of what the challenge is. And it can't do it by me hiding in a cocoon. It can happen by me saying, would you please do this? Would you please stop by? And so forth. And so now beginning to develop a community of interest around me, it would be pretty important, and is very important and very helpful.
I love that. That's exactly right. It's like with any relationship, right? People aren't mind readers. So you need to tell people what you need, and so that they know, so that they're not set up to fail, and they can help you. And you could be very direct. If you could just check in once a week, because sometimes I don't know and I don't want to bother you, but it would be great if you could check in with me once a week, or if you could, something like that, where you set up some things that would be helpful for you, and you ask for them. Now you're allowing them to fulfill that and feel good, rather than feeling like they failed you.
That's correct. And they say that a path to a friend's home is quickly overrun with thorns for lack of constant use. And I think, again, the caregiver, we have to look at ourselves as taking on the responsibility of reaching out and having other people be invited into our life. And it could very well be that people are standoffish because they don't know what to do. They don't want to offend. What shall I say? Do I want to do this? But then it's almost maybe a relief for the caregiver to reach out and say, would you do this? Oh, well, thank you for it. Yeah, thank you for making that approach to me, because now I can feel comfortable doing that. And of course, then that grows. Grows.
And some people don't even know how to, should I be happy? Should I be sad for you? Should I, they don't know how to even, it's like, likely you would want them to be upbeat, and they don't have to be down and sad and oh my gosh, and I think that actually is counterproductive. And I think so sometimes the way you put yourself out as the caregiver, saying, hey, things are tough, but I need I need my friend. I need it's not, don't be afraid. I think people are afraid of how to deal with it.
We need to model how we interact with our loved one. And I think by modeling, people see that. When I would visit my mom, I always came in like a tornado. Hello, Mommy, it's your daughter. I'm here, Susie, your favorite daughter in the whole world, because I'm your only daughter. And, I'd come in and do a dog and pony show. And I never tried to come in dark or sad, or, I wanted her to feel happy and feel loved. And whether she knew who I was or not, I just reminded her. I would just tell her. I didn't ask her. I just sit behind her. And so that, that's what I was taught. In my journey from wonderful people that knew better than me, said, don't make her guess who you are. Just tell her right away. So I did. And so
if somebody's making notes on this discussion, what you should write down is what Don said. And that is, as a caregiver, reach out. I think that's a very important message of all the things we've talked about to help a caregiver, and that's to reach out. And so someone reach out, that's almost That's reach out. That's not an acronym for ROAR, is it?
Reach out
and we need a good R.
No. Well, you got
Yeah.
hanging. I just
And
thought.
rejoice.
and rejoice, yeah, and relax, and yeah. We can make 100 of them. Anyway, this was so wonderful. Was there anything we missed that you would want to share at all?
I just can tell you that I was just very pleased to be with you, and just very much in admiration for what the two of you are doing. So thank you.
Vice versa.
We're honored to have you here today, and for everything you've done in the past, everything you're doing now, and for everything you're going to be doing in the future.
Yes.
I
Go on.
plan on not aging out for a while. That's what.
Nah, not even
I'm
close.
getting to the time pen. We're talking. Well, people age out. Well, I finally understand what that means. I don't want to do that.
No, I don't believe in aging out. I think we are aging in. That's what we are.
Yeah.
We're aging in.
That's a decision. That's a decision you make.
I think it's ridiculous. The longer I live, the smarter I am, and I don't understand how we discount that, because that is a fact. We get smarter if we're lucky to live longer. We're smarter. We're better for it. So I loved this interview. I loved it so much. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for all that you do. You're a delight, first of all. And I just thoroughly enjoyed the book, My Two Elaines. And if you want to get this book, we'll have all the information on the show notes, and always to reach out to Martin Schreiber. We call him Marty, but I'm looking, being respectful. If you need a speaker, he's a wonderful speaker, and really representing a part of our caregiving community that's underrepresented. So please do that. And I just loved it. And love is a theme for us, isn't it, Dawn?
Yes, and that's because love is powerful, love is contagious, and love conquers alls. We do thank everyone for watching and listening today. Please share, subscribe, do all those fun things, and we'll be seeing you next time.
And join Roar.
Join Roar. Everyone roar.
Yes.
Roar. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I'm Angela Fairhurst, founder of Jerry Gadgets, a revolutionary solution for dementia care. Inspired by my personal journey caring for my mother with dementia, I developed patented sensory tools that engage loved ones, reduce anxiety, and create joyful moments without medication, providing much-needed relief for caregivers. Jerry Gadgets currently come in 3 silicone buckets with activities like flower arranging, shape sorting, and tactile fidgets, with more in development. Each Jerry Gadget is designed to stimulate the senses, fostering connection and communication, even at advanced stages of cognitive decline. Non-toxic, built to last, and dishwasher safe, Jerry Gadgets transform caregiving by promoting engagement, improving quality of life, and offering caregivers a respite from constant supervision. Discover how our innovative products can bring joy and meaningful interaction to your loved ones with dementia while easing the caregiver's burden. Visit jerrygadgets.com to learn more and start making every moment count.
For a limited time, you can get 20% off your next order of Jerry Gadgets by going to www.ssww.com. Jerry Gadgets for Dementia.